I know what it takes. I've done pitching myself, and it is not easy. And especially when you know there are financial institutions in the house who are standing between you and actually getting the funds. But there's a couple of comments that I'd like to make just on the bigger picture observation. First and foremost, for those of you women entrepreneurs who are looking at these 5 women's businesses, and we're listening to some questions from the financial institutions, and you might think, oh, I should have covered that. Oh, I should have covered this. No, you shouldn't. You did your job. You got them asking questions. You got them interested. That's the purpose of a pitch. You cannot answer every question so that the bank is ready to hand you the money the minute you walk off stage. It would be nice. I would like to retire as well. That would be nice. So let's make sure that we keep things in perspective for what we're doing here. And you are creating 2 things. One, you are creating a platform to generate the interest in your business so that you have the opportunity to do that deep dive with the financial institutions or with your business advisor so that you can get to where you're going. There's one key element that I am going to recommend you make some improvement on. One main element. You have to know your audience. I am not able to listen to you and read a page of words on a slide and understand both. How many times have you already been told? Too many words. Yeah. Each point should be about 5 words maximum. Okay, sometimes it's 7. But sometimes it can be 3. The idea is not to explain the details, but to reemphasize what your pitch is. Does everybody get that? This is a big important lesson for pitching. Less is more. The one thing that I saw on one of the slides was the amount of tax being paid. That I appreciated. You all out there trying to avoid your taxes, stop it. If you're paying tax, you're making money. And the financial institution is going to value that you've got audited returns, you're a legitimate business, and you're paying your taxes. That's integrity within your business. The thing is that what you have to learn from a finance, how do you get to yes? You know, you have to learn how to ask for yes. You have to learn how much to ask for, under what terms, under what conditions. And it might make sense to you, but we have to make sure that we understand how it makes sense to the financial institution. And if you're looking for $200,000 and your sales are only, your gross revenues are only $35,000 a year, sorry, it isn't going to happen. I can just tell you it's not going to happen. Go talk to your friends and family, get the money from them. Because the difference between those two is too great. So, and it's not a bad thing. You say, oh, I've got these growth plans. It's $200,000. Great. All right, let's break that down. How can we do that incrementally based upon where the size of the business is today and learn to grow? A business advisor can help you with that. But congratulations, you guys all have very good businesses. I know there are others out there that didn't have the opportunity to speak. You have good businesses as well. I hope you were just enthusiastically encouraged by the bravery and the courage of what was presented. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to USAID's Kenya Investment Mechanism Final Learning Event. Now today is all about looking back at the work that has been done over the past 4.5 years as we reflect, exchange experiences, and discuss the way forward. My name is Terry Ann Chebet, and I'm excited to be part of the conversation today. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the theme for our conversations today, which is transformation of financial markets for sustainable economic development. Now, of course, today's event brings business advisory service providers, financial institutions, business executives, international investors, senior government officials, and multilateral stakeholders to share the activity experiences over the past 4.5 years, as I have mentioned before. As we look towards the program this morning, we are looking forward to some insightful presentations, engaging discussions as well. There will be panel discussions, and we're looking forward to some interactive sessions, and of course during the breaks some networking and collaborative conversations. Now, to kick us off first this morning, to take us through what the last 4 years has been and the impact over the last 4.5 years, I'd like to invite on stage Waringa Kibe. Waringa is the Chief of Party, USAID's Kenya Investment Mechanism. She brings decades of experience in finance and investment, SME development, and leadership of complex development programs. She has held senior management positions and worked in several countries, including Burundi, Kenya, Liberia, Rwanda, and South Sudan. Let's put our hands together for Madame Waringa Kibe.
What a day. We are so happy to have you here. Even if it's cold, even if you're on a golf course, just stay within the tent. Don't be tempted. But we are so happy to have you here. Here we have our partner, USAID. Welcome. We have our business advisory service providers. Welcome. We have financial institutions, welcome. We have business people themselves, welcome. And we have the Kim team. And I'll ask the Kim team to stand. You need to see the people behind the work that has been done. So stand up wherever you are. We need to applaud them. Keep standing until I see you have been seen. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Some are here, from here in Kenya, others are all the way from Washington. Thank you for coming. So we are happy to have this learning event, and I'm going to read my speech. So when you see me reading, don't wonder, why is she reading and she was in the program? Because it has been carefully written. So I want you to hear every word of it. So allow me to read my speech. So today is a momentous occasion as we gather to celebrate the remarkable journey of Kim, the transformative results achieved, and the lasting impact we and our partners have had on Kenya's financial ecosystem. I'm Waringa Kibe, of course. I have already been introduced, and I'm honored to be with you on this very special day. Kim's journey has been nothing short of extraordinary. And as we come to the close of year 5, we are so proud that we managed to achieve all our targets way ahead of time. In fact, we achieved them within the second quarter of year 5. I'm deeply grateful to the team that has worked tirelessly to see us achieve these results. Kim has mobilized close to $637 million USD in capital, an impressive figure, especially considering that 2 out of the 5 project years were COVID years. So despite these challenges, we not only met, but exceeded our life of project targets by more than 115 million USD. That goes to show you the need that is out there for capital for business. A testament to the dedication, flexibility, and teamwork of the entire KIM staff and our partners. However, KIM's greatest legacy will not be measured solely by the capital mobilized, but also by the more important systemic change to Kenya's financial ecosystem. You realize our theme for these 2 days is transforming financial markets for sustainable economic development. Our primary focus was to create sustained improvements in access to finance for small and medium-sized enterprises in underserved markets. Through a combination of smart incentives and targeted capacity building, we strengthened the ability of business advisory service providers to offer high-quality support to SMEs while also generating a robust pipeline of potential investments for financial institutions. Connecting SME, business advisors, and FIs to each other is a key to KIM's approach to sustainability, ensuring they have strong and enduring relationships with each other instead of dependence on a donor project. And because they are all here today and tomorrow, please take time to speak to each of these people. Critical to this transformation was improving the perception of business advisory service among SMEs and investors. By creating sustained trust-based relationships between BASPs and financial institutions, we bridged a critical gap that had previously hindered SMEs' access to finance. Through KIM's interventions, SMEs gained confidence and trusted advisors in seeking financial support, and investors recognized the value of BASPs in identifying viable investment opportunities. Our success in achieving these results would not have been possible without the power of collaboration and partnerships. KIM's approach was rooted in bringing people together, fostering an ecosystem where different actors worked hand in hand towards common goals. We collaborated with diverse stakeholders, including BASPs, FIs, national government agency, county governments, private sector partners, and international investors to create an environment conducive to sustainable economic development. And some of our key partners was also the counties. And today we have 3 counties represented here. I'll ask them to stand, because investment is at counties. That's Kakamega, Elizabeth, that's Lucy from Isiolo, that's Sahale from Mombasa, and they are women. Thank you. Through these collaborations, we witnessed the power of collective effort, as each partner brought unique expertise and resources to the table, contributing to KIM's overall success. The partnerships we forged were not merely transactional, but were founded on trust, mutual respect, and a shared vision of the future of the financial landscape, and how it can contribute to a brighter future for all Kenyans. A crucial aspect of KIM's approach was not only delivering results, but also ensuring their sustainability. To achieve this, we focused on building capacity and empowering local institutions to carry forward the positive changes initiated by the project. By investing in the professional growth of BASPs and FIs, we fortified their ability to continue supporting SMEs even after KIM's completion. Furthermore, KIM's sustainability is further enhanced by the lasting relationships we nurtured among partners. These connections extend beyond the project's timeline, ensuring a continued commitment to advancing financial inclusion and economic growth in Kenya. Looking ahead, sustaining these transformative results will be our collective responsibility. As we celebrate KIM's achievement today, we also must chart the way forward to ensure that the gains made are not temporary, but instead serve as a foundation for lasting change. The connection between BASPs and FIs, the connections out there need to continue beyond KIM, because we brought you together. Keep working together. Continued collaboration, innovative approaches, and shared commitment to empowering SMEs will be essential to cementing KIM's legacy in Kenya's financial history. I want to extend my heartfelt appreciation to all the partners, stakeholders, and the entire KIM team for their unwavering dedication and hard work. Your passion, your commitment to our mission have been instrumental in achieving the outstanding results we celebrate today. When this learning event closes, let us carry forward the spirit of collaboration and partnership that has defined Kim's journey. Together, we can continue to transform Kenya's financial markets, empower SMEs, and create sustainable economic opportunities for all. I am confident that the impact of Kim will reverberate for years to come, leaving a legacy of progress and prosperity for Kenya and the East African region where we also served. Thank you all for your support, and I wish you all fruitful discussions and meaningful connections for the next 2 days and beyond. Thank you for coming. Welcome back, Terian.
Thank you very much, Waringa. Let's appreciate her one more time. Thank you so much, Waringa, for that. I mean, you not only achieved all your... Is my mic on? One, two, one, two. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, thank you so much. Apologies for that. Let's appreciate Waringa one more time. And I want to believe you agree with me that the team that has worked tirelessly on this deserves another warm round of applause. I mean, achieving all that ahead of their target is something that is absolutely impressive. So thank you all so much. All right, as I'd mentioned earlier, we are expecting some really engaging conversations today. And the session we're going to now chat, which will focus on co-creating and collaborating for success. The session will provide invaluable insights from Kim's senior strategic advisor, that's Roger Bird, and Benson Kimithi, the USAID's officer responsible for Kim implementation. They will successful collaboration and co-creation with USAID and other partners. And to lead this particular session will be George Mbithi. George is the Communications Director Mechanism. I'll introduce him briefly before he starts. George is a dynamic corporate and development communications professional and has been leading strategic communications and stakeholder engagement at USAID's Kenya Investment Mechanism. He's a proven leader in driving the development and implementation of successful communication strategies and skilled in crafting engaging content for digital and traditional media platforms. Let's give him a warm round of applause as he kicks off this keynote chat.
Thank you very much. I almost listened to that introduction, like, who is that? Thank you, Terry. So, as she's going to have a keynote chat, and it's my pleasure to welcome on stage Roger Bird. Roger is a senior strategic advisor. He has been part of the project for, is it from year one? No, year one. And so, of course, for quite some time. Thank you very much, Roger, and Karibu. And now I'm also going Benson Kimithi, the USAID's officer in charge of implementation of the project, oversees the project from USAID side. I will ask him to join us on stage. Thank you, Waringa, for the assistance. I can see. So, karibu sana, Benson. The conversation is actually between these two folks, yeah? And so what we're going to be talking about is really co-creation and collaboration. And I do not know, having been part of the project for almost 4 years, where there are other better two people who can actually speak about this and speak about it confidently. And so we are going to get right into it. Roger, you have a mic just next to you. And I would like us to start with the beginning, Roger. When you first came, how was it really? How did you go about establishing that relationship with USAID? Because you were new to, the mission here. Were new to the projects, implementing partners and everyone. How was it going to establish that relationship, Roger?
I thought you were going to give me the easy questions.
That's the easiest I have today.
Well, first of all, welcome everyone. It's really great to see some longtime friends and gather today. So, I think the thing that was most challenging in the very beginning was simply coming new to a program. I was actually new to Palladium, the implementer. And when I arrived, I had with me the mandate from more of the implementing partners side of the perspective. And then when I arrived, now I have to blend that with the side of understanding the missions side of it. And I think that the challenge there is simply, in the very beginning, making sure that everybody is happy. What I ultimately learned is that as the COP of the project at that time, I actually sit between Palladium on one side and USAID on the other side, trying to deliver a contract that was actually designed several years in previously. And so all of a sudden it was this idea from a implementer's perspective. So then I met Benson, and what I realized is that he kind of had his own agenda from the USAID perspective. And that's where really some of the challenges I think really came, was then realizing that we both come from our own perspectives of how this project is to unfold. And it wasn't until we started communicating, and even as Benson said earlier this morning, over-communicating, to be able to really understand what it is that the ultimate goal is. And it's not about Palladium, it's not about USAID, it's about Kenya. And once Benson and I started communicating and getting down to that granular level, it became much, much easier.
Wow, thank you. And Benson, Rod is just speaking about communication, and I would like to understand from your perspective, from the USAID's perspective, how, can you just, you give us a specific instance where you saw some very clear communication from Palladium or from the implementing partner, and how that, that transparency and communication, how it really helped to see the success of collaboration with the project.
So, thank you so much, George, for having us here. Good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Benson Kimithi, coming from USAID. They call us CORs. I'm sure there's some of this jargon, especially when you're not from USAID. You struggle to get what they mean. We are supposed to be representatives of the contracting officer. Another one we use is AOR, which is supposed to be whatever, agreement officer representative. So we represent the contracting officer or the agreement officers at USAID in terms of implementing the project. And this is mainly from the technical side of things, where we provide direction to the projects so that they can deliver the mandate, the project they have been given. And just, George, just to step back, because before I talk about communication, before communication, there is something which the CEO or the contracting officer will always tell us. When they tell you you are now the contracting officer representative, they tell you what they care about is performance. Okay? So it's very clear that you can dilly-dally with other things, but the contracting officer will always want you to deliver the project in terms of performance. So going back to your question, after performance, then the next thing you think about is how to communicate when performance is happening. So that is very critical. So when it comes to performance, KIM, the way it was designed, was set up actually to perform, because it's what we call cost plus award fee. KIM or Palladium, are they implementing the Kenya investment contract or project, said pay us only when we perform. So every year we sit down and ask, actually we normally ask them, can you do appraisal of yourselves and tell us whether you delivered? We have an option of not paying or not paying them. And we look at certain deliverables. That's the only way we pay them. So every time they are under pressure to communicate that delivery. So it's very important to do that. Something else I would like to also mention, Kim went overboard. Every time, and this is required in the contract, we are supposed to be getting quarterly reports. These are like 4 reports in a year. Kim, I think, is the first project in the mission, I don't know, like globally, to deliver updates every week. How many reports are those every week per year? So this is a type of flexibility which, and my colleagues at USAID will agree with me. Actually, you can go to an implementer and ask them for a report and tell you, in my contract, I'm not required to give you that report. You can do that because there is a requirement, and it's quarterly reports. Here is a project which is willing to give you weekly reports. And I'm sure all of us have been seeing, most of us are seeing these reports. This is how flexibility and co-creation can deliver for a project, because when the contracting officer is asking for performance, management, and it starts with the people we call office chiefs and goes all the way to the mission director and even goes to the ambassador. Then what they want to see is continuous communication of what is happening in the project. So in terms of communication, I think that this experience I would share about Kim, which is very positive experience. Thank you.
You know, you never said that those weekly reports were optional.
I've not said that. Thank you, George.
Yeah, thank you so much, Benson. And yeah, it's a lot of work to produce the weekly reports, but that is what it takes to communicate. Roger, it's evident from this conversation that trust is really a cornerstone for successful partnerships. I would like you to just highlight how trust was established between Kim and USAID, and also how this mutual confidence influenced project decisions and overall outcomes.
Yeah, thanks, George. Trust, you know, trust is earned, it's not given, and it's a two-way street. In order to gain trust, you have to be trustworthy. And you know, I personally take that responsibility quite seriously, and
to me, the way in which you earn trust is by saying what you'll do and then doing what you say. And I'm really quite proud of the Kenyan Investment Mechanism team in terms of understanding the importance of responsiveness to not only the bigger picture objective and agenda of the program from a standpoint of, you know, work plans and deliverables and the timing, but also just simply in terms of the ad hoc nature of requests of information that does come from USAID missions. And I think the part that, well, Benson's the one that's going to be able to tell us if this is true, but I think the part that is, that really helped build some of that trust was recognizing that, that our COR has a much bigger role in the USAID mission than just being an oversight manager of a project. And as we try to come to understand that, we can much better appreciate the fact of requests for information and questions about progress and who knows what that come from all different directions. It comes from the Office of Economic Growth, it comes from health, it comes from WASH, it comes from the front office in the mission, it comes from Washington, D.C. You have a change in administration, all of a sudden you have a change in approach of how projects or priorities are for projects. And so I think the trust factor comes when you can be responsive to address those elements and create that consistency so that you can be relied on. And I think that that's what I'm probably most proud of with the team in supporting that ability to communicate effectively for USAID.
Okay, well, you want to add something, Benson? But I have a question for you. I would like you to just talk about flexibility and adaptability. Do you have like an example of when these two came into play and how they affected, impacted the project's trajectory?
Let me go more on the flexibility of the project, and state that by Palladium accepting to implement KIM on a cost plus award fee was a very high risk, because if the mission says you've not achieved results, you not get paid. And then I know there are instances where, for example, we were asked, we've worked for so many years and within the finance sector, and doesn't seem, and these are, I have to put a disclaimer here, these are personal observations, not USAID. We know entrepreneurs, business people have struggled for many years accessing finance. And because some of the finance we want entrepreneurs and even smallholder farmers who run agribusinesses, some of the things they do are almost social enterprises. So when you're looking for finance and you are going to a financial institution, and I've seen our friend here from ABSA, you are looking for sort of social capital or development money. But financial institutions are keen on commercial money. So sometimes it's very tough to access this type of money. In development, you also want to look for money which is patient. A lender will not come to you after a year or 2 years asking for their money. Can we have 5 years, 10 years, 15 years money for projects? And especially if we are talking about infrastructure. So when we challenged Kim to come up with a solution for more patient capital, and this is a very tough one, Kim was very open. They said, we are going to try the pension funds, for example. And we have a project where we are working with pension schemes and pension funds so that we can access more patient capital. And I know Kim went out beyond just financial institutions, which we have been very used to working with. And we have a very good partnership with the Kenya Funds Consortium, and we have seen a lot of dollars mobilized for purposes of infrastructure. So the point I'm trying to drive here is the flexibility of KIM to go into very enchanted areas, very challenging areas without fear, knowing that what is at risk is even their payment, but they didn't fear going out and getting challenged. Another signature initiative KIM has been driving for the last few years is working with the National Treasury to set up what we call a credit guarantee scheme. It's a tough one because Treasury is a very big ministry, very busy people there, but KIM took the courage and engaged the Treasury, which is a very sensitive ministry because it's the go-to of every embassy or every development organization here. And they have managed to push that agenda. And to date, I know today or tomorrow, one of the the head of that section is here, giving us the lessons we have learned. So what I'm trying to say here is the flexibility to take on very innovative and also very challenging and complex initiatives is something I've witnessed with the project. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. And back to you, Roger. You know, again, I said I've been with the project for almost 4 years, and so I have also made my observations. Yeah, so I've observed some special rapport between you and Benson, some personal connection, some really understanding of each other. You know, sometimes I'm trying to produce comms material like, how do you think this will land with Benson? So what I want to know is what was the contribution of that rapport? First, how was it? How did we get there? And what was its contribution to the success of KIM?
So I think one of the most important things here is to recognize that communication really is key in order to understand how you can use your skill and expertise to deliver really what mission priorities are. You know, Benson's mentioned a couple of things that have opened up as opportunities as the mission evolves and new priorities come online. You know, yes, there's some risk within the type of contractual side of things, but it's really much more of an opportunity since everything USAID came to Kenyan Investment Mechanism and Palladium for was within scope. It all had to do with mobilizing capital, it all had to do with expanding the market opportunities. And so I think that intersection is the fact of the passion that Benson brought personally to the requests. It wasn't just, I mean, it was very clear that there were really great opportunities for Kenya to take on some of these initiatives. And so I think one of the things that really helped us along the way was starting to do touch bases every couple of weeks, at least 2 per month, and over coffee, outside of the embassy, outside of the Kenyan Investment Mechanism office, just a chance to have a space to be able to walk through and discuss those areas. And for those of you who know me quite well, I'm quite passionate about things, and I have often a strong opinion. But Benson is also very passionate, and so I think that those touch bases were the one key thing that helped unlock our ability to come together and start co-creating. I remember from the very first time that we met, I was there to deliver a cost plus award fee contract. So my mission was to deliver Palladium's contract, whereas ultimately what I learned was the more we co-created with USAID, the better opportunity we had for more global success for Kenya, and Palladium had a better opportunity for success as well. So I think that that was one of the key things that helped us, and those weren't always fun, not all of them, but at the end of the day, what we have definitely developed, and I think what you're reflecting on, George, is there's a tremendous amount of mutual respect that we each bring to the passion that we want to be able to see in terms of Kenya's growth.
Okay. Can I probe a little bit further? You do
That
the
depends.
touch bases, and I think what I've observed, there is more to just the touch base, because or is the touch base what could make you even anticipate what question could actually come from Benson?
Well, yeah, I mean, the bottom line is you have to listen. I mean, you have to listen really, really carefully. And you have to weave your listening together with not just that one particular situation for that one particular day, but there are consistent messages that come across. I mean, one of the things that I loved about Mark Messick as the former mission director was he was very clear about what his strategies and objectives were. And they were, of course, bigger picture because of his role and position. And then that has to trickle down ultimately through Benson and then to the project. So we have to listen very carefully to make sure that we can get that alignment. And then the touch base, the value of the touch base is re-emphasizing, making sure that we're still on track, making sure that we're moving in the direction. And it is a matter of over-communicating. It is a matter of co-creating along the way. And more importantly, I think, really just staying very flexible to make sure that we are, in fact, meeting the bigger picture objective. You know, when Kenya Investment Mechanism first started, we had one funding stream under agriculture that we were going to deliver in 17 counties under dairy, horticulture, and livestock. And we've ended this program with 7 funding streams across East Africa. And so you can't get there without having a strong co-creation partnership that really has the longer range vision to deliver.
Okay, thank you. Benson, is there something that Roger might have not touched? What you think really helped to create that rapport?
Yes, thank you, Roger. Thank you, George. Yes, there's something he has not touched, to the effect that all was not good. It's not a bed of roses. There are times I would tell Roger, you are going to do this, and then you tell me no. And I'll ask him why. You tell me it's not in the contract. And then I'll tell him, I'll put it in the contract. And then he says, then I'll do it. So those, and our relationship, especially the contracting officer representatives and the COPs, are very interesting because they vary from project to project. And it's a relationship where you're supposed to direct somebody, yet you need them to make sure there's a rapport, things are you are able to deliver. So it's a very delicate instrument. But if you are able to strike that rapport, then you make a lot of progress. The other thing I would like to mention, because we've talked about performance, we've talked about communication. The other thing very important to USAID is something we call protocol. Every time an implementer is given a contract by the contracting officer representative, something follows very quickly, and that is normally a letter written by the contracting officer to the contracting officer representative. And it basically says exactly what they are supposed to do. If you are a COP or a project leader and you don't understand that everything you do must go through this representative, and the CEO must be aware, every time you have to talk to anyone else in the mission, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about the mission director, office chief, and even the ambassador, your contracting officer representative must know. You know, the other thing Roger did mention that he's too aggressive. He's very aggressive. And you tell me, Benson, I want to talk to Mark today. I told him, okay, just make sure every time you want to talk to the mission director, I am aware. Every time you want to talk to, and interestingly, he managed relationship with senior people at USAID, from the office chief to the mission director, but he made sure that he would compare notes with me, and I would tell him, so long as you have something to, you have a message to deliver, you are free. So it's very important for project leads, COPs, chief of parties, to manage this protocol thing. If you understand that very well, you'll never have trouble in terms of managing relationships. Thank you. Just wanted to add that.
Roger, you look like you want to add something.
Well, Benson's comments have kind of activated me. My aggressive nature. It's called proactive. It's not.
Okay, with it, Rod. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll co-create that. So one of the things that's, you know, when you sit in a leadership position on projects, a lot of times what it looks like out there is that the COP or the leadership is making decisions on their own and driving things forward. But the reality is that I never made any decisions without making sure that the COR was informed and on board, and we were moving in the same path. And I think that actually helps help create not only the success for Kenyan Investment Mechanism, because that communication then was able to go back out to the team, but it is also, I think, is part of that factor that helped build that trust and that relationship, so that we made sure that we were, in fact, delivering this project together. I might have, at the time, had a title of COP, but I was basically the co-implementer of this program. It was not Palladium's program to be implementing, and I think that that's where IPs sometimes miss the understanding. This is programs from the American people, and it is being delivered through the USAID program, and we're vessels in order to be able to make it happen.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen, and thank you. I think your insights are really key lessons to implementers and the partners who are in here. That is it from us today, and we wish you the very best in the course of the event. Back to you, Terian. Thank you.
George, Roger, and Benson, thank you so much. Let's give them another warm round of applause. That was quite a wonderful, wonderful session. And a few things stood out for me, and I'm sure they did for you as well. And just, you know, some of the highlights that I've picked from, you know, what it takes to have a great co-creative, collaborative space. Communication is key. That's one of them. Passion, mutual respect. There's coffee here and there as well. Partnerships, managing relationships, and proactivity. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for setting the pace for our conversations. And Kimithi did talk about the guarantee scheme, and that's one of the things that will come out in one of the later sessions later today, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more about that as well. So gentlemen, thank you so much for setting the pace for our event this morning. All right, so the next part of our morning is actually the first panel discussion. George was very, and those of you who know George know how a perfectionist he is. And he said, it is a keynote chat. It is not a panel discussion. So this next session is our first panel discussion of the day, and it will be on financial institutions' collaboration with business advisors. This will be led by Anne Mwenje, Anne, I'd like you to begin to make your way on stage. I'll introduce Anne now. Anne is a corporate banker and transformational and financial coach. She has held leadership roles in the banking and finance industry for over 10 years. She spent the majority of her career in president commercial clients at Habib Bank, AG Zurich. She has also worked with Middle East Bank, GT Bank, among others. She has a bachelor's degree in business management, marketing option, and an MBA in strategic management. Let's put our hands together for Anne Mwenje as she leads our first panel discussion of the day.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I'm not going to waste any more time. I'll invite my fellow panelists to join me up here. And I'm going to start with Simon Kinuthia. Thank you. Simon Kinuthia is the head of agribusiness at Absa Bank. And he has, just give me a minute. Tell us more about that. Thank you. My next guest is George. George Bank. A round of applause to encourage him to come. And he's the GM in charge of food and agriculture banking within Equity Bank. He has also over 20 years of experience. So you're in good hands, I can assure you. If you want to start any business, we are all farmers, you're in good hands. And both Simon and George. So thank you, karibu sana. My next guest, and because now this time we want to make sure that we are gender balanced, and we have many women doing a lot of good things, is Phoebe Obor, and she's a managing consultant at Lamiro Consultant. She's worked tirelessly. She's a BASP, meaning business advisory services providers. She's done a lot of transformation, especially within the agricultural space. My last panelist, give her a round of applause to welcome her and encourage her. She's Edna Odalo, and she's the managing director of AfriScope. Again, she's done a lot of transformative business, especially in the western part of our country. So give her a round of applause. Thank you, everyone, and welcome. I'll allow us to start right away. Briefly, just try and imagine how, when you joined Kim, because we all joined at different stages, maybe year 2, year 1, tell us something how your journey has been like. You know, we've heard from the previous discussion that there were issues. It was an interesting journey for them. We just want to understand from you, how was it like? I'll start with Simon, and then George, Phoebe, and Edna. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anne, and thank you for the kind words during the introduction. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be at this forum where we're discussing learnings. And I like the topical theme, which is basically collaboration and co-creation. I think those are very important for us at ABSA. As I mentioned, I head agribusiness. It's a key segment for the bank. It's a key growth area. And we support across the value chains, taking a value chain approach all the way from inputs, commercial, primary agriculture, to aggregators and agro-processors. We provide holistic solutions across the board, and at the same time, we've taken a 4-pronged approach, which is access to information, access to mentorship and coaching, access to markets, and access to sustainable finance. I think for me, partnerships are critical for us to grow in agribusiness, because we've realized that you can't go it alone. And my journey with Kim started in year 1. It was an innovative approach towards trying to solve some of the challenges that we were seeing in the market space. So for us, we're very keen to be part of this journey. And I think it has been one of co-creating, one of learning. We've really benefited as an institution from the learnings that we've gained in terms of training and development, and the different approach around working with business advisory service providers, and also looking at the incentive program that has helped us really look at things differently, and also solve some of the challenges we face, especially when we try to make financing accessible and sustainable. So it's been a very beneficial journey for ABSA and for me personally, and also has broadened our network in terms of working with development partners and also working with fellow institutions that are all looking to solve the challenges of access to finance. So I can say it's been beneficial, and I think we'll unpack some more as we get into this conversation for today. Thank you very much, Anne.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anne, and good morning, everybody. I think, first of all, as introduced, my name is George Macharia. I take care of food and agriculture banking at Equity Bank. Our journey with this program has been a very interesting one and a very exciting journey for us, both for my team and my colleagues and myself. We've seen a huge gain in this partnership, and I mean, I think to echo what Simon has said, in this space of financing of agribusinesses, I think partnership is a key component of success. And we've seen this, especially after we joined the KIM program, and we've actually, I would say, and particularly if I was to be asked, and I remember one time I spoke to Anne and I told her that middle word, incentive, is a real word, because it has actually done exactly what it means in English. And what I mean is that I am very serious about it, and I'm saying this because sometimes agribusiness has a lot of perceived risks. And until and unless you are able to come in and break that ice of the perception about the risks and see the other side, which is full of opportunities to impact and to help in the growth of the sector, you cannot be able to succeed. So what we have seen with the KIM, and expanding the knowledge, both technical to us and to SMEs that are involved, but also importantly, helping even in walking the journey, and particularly through the partnership, walking the journey with the clients and the customers that we've been supporting in this space. I think this, for me, I would say, has been a brilliant and an exciting journey for Equity. Thank you.
Thank you. Phoebe?
Thank you, Anne. Good morning, everybody. I'll do my journey in two parts. One part is my personal journey, briefly, and then the other part is the KIM journey. I've been in this field for the last 20 plus years. Pilots usually count their hours. I count 50 years accumulative days for professional service provision to the world. Lamiro Consult is a small organization supporting a lot of development initiatives, and it was not by any chance that we're going to miss the KIM one. The KIM journey was a tough journey. The bidding was tough. You know the US, they want details up to your chief and your local chief. Who is your grandmother and where was she born? It was real tedious. Fortunately, we did make it. The other part of the journey, which was also difficult, was to convince the directors, my co-directors, that this is something we can do. They felt there was no way we were going to break through because there was no incentive. particularly to the clients, the SMEs. There was nothing different. It was a normal banking, the normal acquisition of loan. So what was it that was going to make them take our services? Anyway, with my weight, I put on quite a bit of weight on them and eventually agreed to work together. We did start. The ocean was very deep. Kim did some good work for supporting us in terms of even identification of some of the SMEs they had come into contact with. That was a real big plus from them. Part of the journey which was most difficult was knowing what the needs of the SMEs was and matching them to the relevant financial institutions who would address those needs. But most importantly, it was a preparatory phase, preparing these SMEs to meet the requirements of the banks. I always say, after love, the only thing sought about is money. And everybody needs money. Everybody, all of us seated here, that's why we are here. And the SMEs do not like a lot of questions or a lot of insight. They say, give me the money, give me the market, and leave me alone. Whereas the bankers want a lot of financial details. They want to be sure that the money is safe. They want to be sure that the money will create a difference. The work started. We took about 1 year as Lamiro, 9 months to turn in any meaningful deal. We did turn in some small ones, but eventually we hit it. And when the money started coming in, my co-director started taking ownership and even now coming very strongly to advise on the project. So in short, it was a big learning process. We've done linkages, market linkages, we've done financial linkages, but nothing like this. This is a real good opener. It has left us with a lot of things. Maybe I'll touch on that later. For now, that was our journey. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to really thank the Kenya Investment Mechanism team for inviting us to this panel to share our insights. By way of introduction, my name is Edna Odalo. I'm the Managing Director for AfriScope Research Limited. We are a business advisory service provider. We were a partner, BASP, and we contributed to the successes of the KIM program. We offer business advisory support to SMEs, and we focus on 3 principles, what we call the 3 S's: structure, sustainability, and scalability. The research arm of AfriScope offers investment research, policy research, as well as market research. Our journey as an organization has been long, has been full of learning, and at first we really quite did not understand the KIM program. And just to agree with, or rather to concur with what Phoebe said, it also took us a long time before we could fully grasp what the program was all about. Probably 6 to 9 months as well. But once we understood it, it was good for us. We were able to close deals. Understanding the program also helped us to demystify financing to the SMEs. And we were able to expose them to the various financing instruments out there. And SMEs now are not they don't fear, for example, banking partners here. They know that they are all walking in the journey together. It's not just about the bankers making profits. No, it's also beneficial to them. And also in our journey, the SMEs were able to gain trust and confidence in working with the business advisory service providers. Because in the past, they may have had a bad experience with consultants, and for being part of KIM, it gave us credibility in the market. We were able to reach more SMEs in different regions. We were able to work with the underserved entities, with the financially disadvantaged groups, and that is just because of the platform that the program provided to us. So one thing though that really was beneficial is the trust and the confidence that the SMEs had in the business advisory service providers. So we are quite grateful for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just to now probe further and understand what Phoebe and Edna have shared, their journey towards financing modules, you know. I know, Simon, that you did a training. You did a training for all the VASP. Maybe share with us, why did you do it? What was the thinking process? What was the outcome? So that we can see what it is that our team also benefited from. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. So it's an interesting question that you ask, and I know the audience would love to know, what were we training about? Because as Phoebe has mentioned, over 50 years experience, you know, in this space. George and Edna have experience, they know what's going on. But I think the reality is that as you bring partners together, we all have different strengths, we all have different cultures, we all operate in different ways. And in order to achieve success, what we realized is that previously, before Kenya Investment Mechanism, yes, we would get some transactions coming through from consultants and from business advisory service providers. But the reality is that the success rates were very low. And one of the challenges we did identify is, you know, just the need for us to understand each other, something like starting with the end in mind, because we are all here to, you know, make it work. I think that's the overarching objective. So the training was really for us as APSA to, you know, first get to understand our partners, you know, the business advisory service providers, who they are, what you know, what they look at, how they do their things, and also for them to also understand the bank and see what it is that we look at. And for many, you know, years, there was always that, you know, questions that banks ask too many things, you know. But at the end of the day, I think there was consensus that there's an understanding. The reason why banks ask those questions is because we've introduced a new word. It's no longer access to finance only, it's access to sustainable finance. Because as a bank, we don't want to do a one-hit wonder where we do the loan today. After a few months, we are now talking about collections because we did not solution the customer appropriately. So the discussions were really around trying to understand, drill down, what are the key areas that we need to look at. I'll give you a few examples. As a financial institution, we lend depositors money. So it is very important for us to make sure sustainability of that loan or that you know, financing is able to sustain through the cycles. Number two is to also appreciate, when you look at the cash flow, there's aspects of what goes into that dynamic. And more often than not, the business advisory service providers understand, right? Because they are well qualified and they know. But when we go together, we go to unpack a little bit more. What are the margins telling us? What are the key things that we're looking at in those margins? And then we delve deeper and try and understand what's driving that and how sustainable it is. So out of those conversations, I think there were learnings. And for me, I think at the end of the day, the clients benefited more because they were able to get collective advice from partners who are all looking to solve the challenge maybe they're facing and be able to enable that business access financing. The other aspect I want to bring about is appropriateness of the solution. More often than not, you will find an application coming through for an overdraft facility to finance working capital, right? Now, we know there's a commodity flow in agribusiness, and we know that there's a cash flow that flows the other way. But these two don't flow at the same time. Commodity flows very quickly, but cash flow comes in intervals. Now, the working capital solution through the overdraft is what we'd call a quick fix, but doesn't really appreciate some of the underlying aspects and risks. And what we've seen is there's the key risk of diversion of funds, especially when there's money available to the SMEs and the other pressing needs that come about. And so that money can quickly be diverted to solve other issues, and sustainability becomes a challenge. So we discussed aspects of appropriateness, like short-term loans that are structured to map out the seasons, to map out the transaction, so that you can have an overarching limit and multiple short-term loan facilities that address that. Again, there are other risks that come about that we did explore, and we brought about the bank assurance aspects, for example, the insurable risks that come about, and where clients were exposed to export markets. There was a currency risks that came about, and how do we mitigate some of those. So in a nutshell, and we discussed basically how financial institutions look at applications, and the outcome of those discussions was success, because we did get now more quality transactions coming through. It took a shorter time to get to decisioning. I can say from ABSA perspective, through various interventions also in terms of system enhancements and also collaborations like this, we're able to reduce the decisioning time for SME to get a decision from, it used to be around a week, 2 weeks, to now about 48 hours. And it's through such kind of collaborations where we're working closely together and trying to address what are the real issues that are affecting the businesses, and providing solutions that enable us provide sustainable financing to that business. So that's been the conversations, and we have continued having those conversations as we go along.
Thank you, Simon. And just to think through the journey that you've had, we were looking at some of the data that we have, and we noticed some deals started being closed towards the end of year 4, year 5. We saw a lot of banks funding the deals from the BASP side. It was really encouraging because the numbers just shot up. So I just want to understand from you, George, what exactly did you do? What exactly did Equity do to make sure that now they're financing a lot of the deals from the BASP side?
Thank you, Anne. And it is true. I think there was quite a good traction, especially when we were able to fully integrate the working partnership with BASPs. And maybe if you may allow me, even before I say what we did, just to highlight a few of the things that we picked as very good additions to what SMEs go through. When we are, and I think Phoebe alluded to this, when leaders are making decisions on financing, one of our key thing is to have full information about the person on the other side of the table. You're leading, and you know very well, and I think Simon has mentioned, we are leading depositors' funds, so you expect it to it. So essentially then, for you to be assured that you come back, you need to have very good information about the borrower. And this borrower is the one that the BASPs is helping to build capacity, but also most importantly, to be able to help them to package what their business entails and bring it to the table of the banker so that the banker can be able to understand. So that has actually really contributed a lot to the numbers that you saw streaming in. Importantly, it also helps when the bank and the borrower have. And what the BASPs did, it was to equip the SMEs to be able to also have the capability of negotiating, being able to demonstrate the kind of business that they do, and being able to negotiate terms that are actually palatable not only to them, but also to the lender when we are structuring their debts. So that really also helped us. We also had a lot of interaction in terms of clients' visitations, jointly and in collaboration with the BASPs, being able to go to the field together, being able to see what these businesses are doing, but also importantly, being able to give joint advice and technical support to the SMEs. To me, that has, or rather that was one of the biggest wins that helped us to actually be able to grow this business. But also importantly, as the last observation, being able to know that once you give this credit to the SME, there is somebody who is giving technical backstopping and support. It gave assurance and confidence to us as a bank that this is a business that is going to, to go beyond the tenor of the loan, and that gives us the impetus to even do more together with the BASP and to support in supporting these SMEs. I think in a nutshell, that's what I want to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Phoebe, you can share with us from the side of BASP, how's the journey?
Thank you. And I look at George next to me and I wonder, is he the same guy who sits behind the table when you get to the bank? Can you imagine? A light touch. Yeah, I think the model of Kim bringing the BASP together and introducing us to the banks, there was a lot of moment when we shared the floors, we shared the virtual meetings, there was a lot of interaction. And I think that mellowed it, because initially, the banks usually looked at business advisors as, I don't know, enemy is the wrong word, but not very cordial. The relationship has not been very cordial, to be honest. But when Kim came in and opened the floor and gave the opportunity for meetings, for trainings together, for even the banks sharing what they're looking for in businesses, it opened up a lot of windows for us. But most importantly, I think on our side, what was real critical was identifying the right businesses. And of course, Kim had given us value chains and sub-value chains that we were to work within that framework. But of course, within those value chains, there are several businesses. So we were to identify the businesses, do audits, do all the due diligence, and know what are the gaps within a business that needs corrective measures before you package it to a bank. And that was the most important part. Once you identify, put your finger on the challenge or on the gap in a business, you can correctively address it and then package for pitching. Secondly, the preparatory phase was also very critical, because the business person should be able to understand. And a lot of them, especially down at the bottom of the pyramid, where there's a lot of business actions taking place, do not know even how to differentiate their own money and the business money. It is that simple. So we had to take a lot of time, not only sensitizing, but going through these issues with the business partners to be able to understand that whatever they'll borrow is meant for the business. I remember one time a client telling me that, Phoebe, I got the money, but my child had an accident. I had to treat the child first. I mean, it's reasonable. But repackaging such a person becomes more difficult again. So what helped us as Labiro, and of course the other BASPs, was understanding the financial need, identifying the gaps within the organization or the enterprise, addressing those gaps appropriately, and repackaging the business for pitching with the bank. At pitching level, I also would like to thank Kim, because they created a lot of moments where they brought the banks together and gave us opportunity for pitching, selling our customers. The clients were not there. We only used their financials to package them. And that gave birth to a lot of results a lot of our clients received money as a result of those pitching moments which were created by Kim. Finally, I think the capacity building, which was also given to a lot of us by Kim from different organizations, also contributed, because now we looked at the thing slightly differently. The model was unpacked and repackaged, and we understood much better how to approach the banks and how to mitigate the needs and the requirements, not the wants, of our clients. Because many times the clients want the money, and they don't know what they need it for. So all those put together, I think, enhanced our capabilities in approaching the banks, convincing the banks, because these guys are not easy to convince. They are not easy, I tell you, the two of them here. But I must also say that I did a lot of deals with Equity, fairly good ones and big ones. I did a lot of deals with Equity. So thank you, George, for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Phoebe. Just to understand more, you know, you have now a relationship between the banks and the BASP. Is there any effect to the SMEs, or it just ends between the two of you?
Oh, that's a good one. I think the few, because there are few, the SMEs who went through our hands and had money and facilities from the banks are few. It's just a tip in the ocean. Are quite looking at things differently now. Their views, their thoughts, their relationship with the banks are more cordial. They can now package and look after their money. And by the way, Roger Bad and your team, we are still giving services and mentoring and coaching these SMEs. So there's a lot of impact which was created. And I think the banks should also acknowledge and attest that the clients who are introduced and linked to them through BASPs look at things now totally different, can package themselves and approach the banks for lending. And that is the most important element we should carry forward, George and Simon. Eh? Yeah, because I felt like when Kim is going away, we are going to divorce. I don't know why. Please, let's keep the marriage.
Thank you, Phoebe, because now I just want to understand, because you said that it looks like you will divorce. We also have the same feeling that we don't want you people to divorce. We want you to continue, you know? So Edna and Simon, how do you ensure that you keep this relationship going as we are not there? A year from now, what will it look like?
All right. Thank you very much, Anne. First, I think even for divorce, the parties have to agree. It takes two. It still takes two to tango. And I don't think the BASPs would like to divorce with the banks, because we have achieved quite a lot. George, you talked about the post-financing support. That is one key element in the overall success of the financial ecosystem, because what the BASPs ensure that the SMEs do is to actually spend the monies received exactly the way they had said they were going to spend that money. Proper use of the funds to grow their businesses. What we make sure that the SMEs have is proper financial management systems. That way, the banks or other financial institutions will be able to get back their money. So these loans are repaid. At the same time, the businesses will be able to scale, because by the time the businesses are going to ask for this money, there's a strategic plan. There's a plan to grow the business to the next level and to the next level. We offer those post-financing services, and they are working. They're working for the BASPs, they're working for the SMEs, and they're working for the financial institutions as well. So another thing that, one of the other reasons why we cannot divorce is because of the time. The time spent in structuring these deals from origination to success used. If there's one thing that we cannot be able to buy, you know, or we cannot gain, it's time. This second gone, it's gone. We cannot get it back. We want to have more efficient, effective systems. And having the BASFs and the FIs working together, you have heard Simon talking about the turnaround of the deals reducing, right? And that is because by the time the SMEs are being presented to the banks, they are already investor ready. Time had been spent before to prepare these businesses for investor readiness. And that is one of the reasons why we just cannot divorce. We really do not have a choice. We have made strides and we have to keep on going, correct?
True. Simon?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Edna. I think you're spot on. And what I see is an opportunity actually for us to really solidify and make it work and make it better. Because Kenya Investment Mechanism and this partnership brought us together. We've gone through, as any relationship goes through various stages, right? And now it's working, right? So the only thing we can do now is make it better. And I think that one thing I see as a positive is, I think Phoebe mentioned the tension that was there before between banks and consultants or business advisory service providers. But I think there's been a lot of effort to really harmonize and create that understanding. And in line with the theme for today, which is basically why we're here today, is learning from each other, looking at what worked, looking at the successes, co-creating solutions. Because the reality moved away from where financial institutions viewed agribusiness as a high-risk area to one that now we are all looking towards growth in terms of our portfolios because of understanding. Information asymmetry is one of the key challenges. I mentioned around our key pillars for growth is access to information, both for the financial institution, also for the clients, and also for business advisory service providers, because through information, we're able to then co-create and get solutions. I think you mentioned access to mentorship and coaching. That continues. It's not going to be a one-stop, one-hit wonder, where after the SME has accessed the finance, then they're left on their own, right? We still require business advisory services providers to work with them. And I think we can make a case thereafter to say, if you look at success, I'm sure, and this is a hypothesis, that businesses that have walked through the hands of business advisory service providers would definitely possibly be better equipped to handle various challenges in these volatile economic times, because they have somebody who is working with them, who is mentoring and coaching them. And as a financial partner, we're working collectively together. So I think there's a lot of opportunity I see in terms of fostering this development. And I'm reminded by a proverb from one of the African countries I visited recently that says, for a chameleon to escape a burning bush, it needs to change the walking style of its ancestors, right? So I think for us to really transform agricultural financing and access to finance in this market, it's through us collaborating and changing, how we used to do it previously, to adopting innovative ways to actually approach financing and solutioning in this space. And together, each person holding an inch will be able to move much closer to that objective. At APSA, one of our purpose is actually empowering Africa's tomorrow together, one story at a time. And I believe we have many stories that we are creating through these partnerships. I think there's an opportunity for us to work together. Thank you.
Thank you. George and Phoebe, do you want to add anything to the sustainability?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Anne. And let me add one or two things, and more or less echoing what my two co-panelists have said, and see that the opportunity to continue with this partnership with BASPs is definitely there, and particularly because we want, I mean, everybody wants to create sustainable businesses, and we want to see SMEs that have businesses that will grow, will go beyond their lifespan in those in the management of those entities that they run. And the only way to do this is to continually build, capacity and to continue hard holding them. The good thing is that it is not. The truth is that it's not all entrepreneurs that may have the technical skills of management, but they may have a very good entrepreneurial idea, but how to organize, and I like the 3 S's that Edna spoke about, how to organize those 3 S's is probably where the gap between their success and their failure lies. Now, you may have the money, but you don't have the right structure, right? You may have access to finance, but you don't know how to structure your business. So with the BASP being there and continually supporting them even after they engage with the financial institutions, I think that gives an assurance that even if they do not necessarily go for repeat borrowings from the banks, at least you are assured that 5-10 years down the line, you'll find that business continually expanding. So my word, or what I would give the comfort to my colleagues, particularly the BASPs, is that there is a great opportunity to continue building businesses, in partnership, and I believe this is something that we should actually continue carrying on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. I think I want to differ a little bit. Now it's getting icy. On every initiative, there should be a sustainability component. And the sustainability component in the work we have done, or we are still doing, should also come from the bank. Development partners will show us how to develop, bring projects, and thereafter. What I'm talking about, George, is in this regard, we're being paid by Kim for all our services that we rendered. I've not had you giving us comfort by saying you'll take the initiative to pay for the services the BAPs are going to provide. Because that is what sustainability is all about. It's not about the results coming free. I've been listening slowly. We've had about 3 panels with you and the other banks, but nothing has come out clearly to say that the project is ending. We want to continue. How do we package ourselves? How do we work together appropriately? How do we have this continuity going on? That's a big gap. Huh? We agreed we call them gaps and lessons. Huh? We don't call them challenges. Yeah, I think that is a very important one because we need to continue. You've all along left the responsibility of paying the consultants to the SMEs or the clients. I think it's time you also woke up, folded your sleeves, and came up with a solution.
Thank you. George, do you want to respond? Or?
Oh, yes. Thank you. I didn't know you give me the opportunity to do. Yeah, but thank you, Phoebe, for that challenge that you have thrown to us, and I'm sure it's not just to George, it is to George and fellow bankers, and how we can be able to help in sustaining this. And I think what I would want to say, and I will not differ with you, because for sure, sustainability also requires that the collaboration between the BASPs and the SMEs and the bank remains. Now, BASPs are in business, SMEs are in business, banks are in business. So how do we make sure that that almost what I would call the trinity continues to remain strong? And I think different businesses can be able to build different models. Financial institutions differ from one to the other. So probably how I would structure a relationship with the BASPs and the SMEs as equity might be different from how Simon in ABSA would structure that. But the thing for me, I would say that what we need to do and do it very fast as partners is to sit individually, the different BASPs, different banks separately, structure something that fits into a business model for each of the financial institutions and the BASPs, so that then we can be able to see how do we take it forward. And I agree, I mean, you don't have to necessarily, load the cost to the SME, but then you must also ask yourself, what do you do to make sure that that cost that you incur, it's not a cost that will dissuade you from continuing to do business with these SMEs. So there has to be a way of sitting together and crafting a solution and structuring something that can actually be able to withstand the time. So I believe it is something that has an opportunity to be done.
Okay, thank you. And as Phoebe has shared that the entire journey will have challenges, or we called it the gaps, missing links. So it would be good to share, the four of you can share with us what were these within the KIM project, so that now other people who want to get into this sector can be able now to learn from us and change, or learn from us and go to a different direction. So anyone would start maybe with Edna? Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. One of the challenges was the cost. The cost of finance and the cost of the advisory services. So it was a barrier because these have previously been deemed as very high costs. But the benefits, especially of working with an advisory service provider, it's something that carries on. And one of the ways that the program handled the cost barrier was by offering a pay for performance, or rather a success fee, to both the financial institutions as well as the BASPs. We were able to pass this down to the SMEs, and that increased the scope of the SMEs that we could work with. For example, as BASPs, we heavily discounted the fees that we charged the SMEs. The program did not really come to distort the market. The program came to create awareness on the value of, for example, using an investment advisor, a business advisory service provider. And I believe it worked. Because once you start working with an SME and you successfully close a deal, they call you next time for something else. They keep calling you, you keep working with them. You've already created a relationship, you've proven your worth, and now the journey continues because they hit their targets and now they want to move to the next step. And that was actually a very big success for all of us. First, the costs were subsidized, and then we were able to show our value, and now the SMEs were able to pay full price. But I completely agree with Phoebe that the financial institutions should be able to take at least a small portion of the costs, because we're de-risking the enterprises for the financial institutions. They will keep coming back. Maybe the first time an enterprise came to you, they were just coming for something like 1 million. But now they increase, their needs increase because the businesses are growing. They keep coming back, and now they're better structured. You have they become less risky. The default risk has actually decreased. So cost was one of the major challenges. Another challenge in the collaboration between the FIs and the BAS was the lack of trust. Initially, there was no trust. Perhaps we really didn't know each other that well, but such forums, the learning events, the networking opportunities that we have had throughout the program, the training, the capacity building. Again, this has improved. We're given a platform where we could all interact, we could all learn, we could co-create, and that really, 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 really was a major success. It was a major success of the program. So I think in this discussion, Phoebe, you can agree with me that there are no irreconcilable differences here, yeah? We're still working towards the no divorce. All right, thank you.
Phoebe?
Thank you, Anne, and thank you, Edna. I think I'll take it slightly differently. In Kenya and in Africa as a whole, the people who move the money are the women at the bottom of the pyramid. That's where actual business happens. The big boys and the big girls is a very small fraction. We also agree that the African woman particularly, I don't want to talk for the West, has a lot of limitation to resources. All the 5 key resources to make a business successful. That is information, relationships and networks, assets, human resource, and of course, the main one, capital. And when you approach financiers for money, there's always the issue of collateral. They look at it either the first-class collateral, which is cash guarantees, or a title deed of a property. I have a lot of respect for women, particularly the women in business, and a very big soft spot for them. It was one of the biggest challenges I encountered. And this is to Kim and maybe USAID. In the event of another project coming up of a similar nature, even in any other country, please look at giving some leeway, not total, what do you call it, the gender thing? Not rewrite. What do you call the gender thing? Affirmative action. Not fully affirmative action, but create some leeway to support these women. Create some leeway to enable the women also access the funds. It could be deliberate, but designed to incorporate the women in business. They are many, and they do a lot of formidable work down at the bottom of the pyramid. They're the ones who sustain us, actually. Even if you look at guys like George Mbidi bragging here that he's a big shot, he's a Njogo. He's not a Njogo. It doesn't even pay his bills. It doesn't pay his bills. All these guys in big suits, you know, they are good, but yeah, you agree? I've got another George next to me. So let's get a bit deliberate to support these women. They're doing a lot of good work. The village loans and savings schemes are incredible. There's a lot of money, transactions changing hands down there. Let's find a way of supporting them deliberately. That was the biggest challenge I had with the banks. Beyond that, I think these are things which can be sorted out, and even to the banks, not necessarily only the development partners, even to the banks. One time, of course, during one learning event, APSA came and told us they're giving women money without securities. And we all rallied. But Simon will be able to answer later, maybe tomorrow, what happened. Thank you very much.
Thank you. George, challenge? Any challenges?
Really not, I don't want to call them challenges because for me, I always say it's an area of improvement, and because they say the largest room in this world is the room for improvement. And if I read the script from the script of when we started working with the BASPs, especially at the very early stages of our engagement. And I think I agree with what Phoebe and Edna have said. At the initial stages, the issue of trust was not, there. I mean, let's speak the truth. But it's not that it wasn't there. It's because there was almost what you may call a relative shift of business modeling and how you do business. Because bankers, and if you ask Simon, he's not used to a customer being brought by a third party to borrow, right? So it is the one who is in need who comes to the doctor, right? So you don't go looking ordinarily. You don't go looking for a patient to take to a doctor. So we had to change our mindset and ask ourselves, how do we collaborate with BAPs who are able to go out there in the marketplace, because they are business advisory services, identify clients' gaps, and then they identify where the solution provider sits, and they bring the two and bridge that gap. So in essence, it may have taken a bit of time then to build that agreement and that understanding. But I must confirm that that is something that I would call of the past. So the point, therefore, is that for me, if you ask, the gap that maybe remains now is how do we continue package for SMEs in agribusiness? Phoebe knows. And when we come and sit and I tell her, this package is targeting this kind of SMEs in agribusiness, then she's able to know within her portfolio, in her business, she knows, oh, I have a few people or few entities who run this sort of business, and they have this gap that can actually be solved by the solution that has been shared with me. So for me, it is about information sharing, but also importantly, continuing to know what is it that the banks are looking for to be able to continue supporting SMEs. If we are able to bridge that gap, I want to believe that the working collaboration can only be seamless and smooth. Thank you.
Thank you. Simon?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'll just continue from where George has left it. And as I answer, I think I'll also bring about some of the challenges Phoebe has highlighted. And the reality is that access to finance in agri-business is a real challenge, right? And the statistics tell us the same, because what we've seen is only 4 to 5% of total aggregate lending to by banks in this segment goes to agribusiness. So there's a reason for that, and because the challenges are quite many. But I like the fact that today we're talking about collaboration and co-creation, because it's out of these discussions that we hopefully get solutions of how we can solve some of. What I've seen, especially as we go along, and it will inform why we've taken a certain approach, is getting scale has been a challenge, right? Driving that scale in terms of number of businesses that now can actually, qualify to borrow. And the reality is that it's not only about the financing aspect. When you delve deeper, there are other aspects in the businesses that are actually causing some challenges. Okay, so on the collaterals piece is one we can work together, because through partnerships we've been able to get into guarantee schemes that help bankable businesses access finance where they don't have collateral. But the reality is that the business model at the first front needs to be able to hold. And what we've identified is, for example, information asymmetry is a key one. And what I would like to challenge even business advisory service providers is that aspect of going over and beyond the transactional advisory, which is basically trying to make the deal work, to try and also look at how do we solve the other challenges. For example, information is, how do I do this? So those are, like, for example, tax advisory, those are some of the challenges that you can be able to solve. The other aspects is mentorship and coaching, linkages to markets, and those are some of the areas that I think collectively, if we solve, then we'll be able to get successful business models that then will enable us achieve the objective, which is basically moving SMEs to the next point and achieve that growth. So I think collectively, we've started on a journey. And out of that, I think we're realizing that this environment keeps changing, right? So last year's challenges are not this year's challenges. And if we think we have seen challenges, we don't know what's ahead of us, isn't it? So, looking forward, and not only at the rear view mirror, and trying to see how else can we make sure these businesses are future-proof to be able to sustain the challenges that are ahead of us. So at APSA, we have what we call Africanacity, which is basically working together to find solutions that can enable us, forge forward, engage. And if we cannot solve that particular challenge, we're able to look out to partners that can help bring on board to help us solve that. So for example, like collaterals, we said, we have partners who can take and help us solve that particular challenge. So I think for us, challenges will be many, and we are apt to that challenge to always think ahead and try and make sure that we are not only looking at the financial component, but looking at holistically what will make this business sustainable and withstand the future. So that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you. Now that you've given us, the areas for improvement, just highlight to us, in general, it doesn't have to be about the relationship between the FIs and the BASP. What is a key highlight of having joined the program? Just a few key highlights, one or two, of the program in general. Thank you. Edna?
Thank you. So one of, I'm sorry, there you go. One of the key highlights of the program was the importance of the business advisory service provider. We are right in the center. On one side, we have the SME. On the other side, we have the financial institutions. We understand the language of the SMEs, and we speak the language of the BASFs as well. So it was, the program clearly brought out the importance of working with an advisor. Through the program, AfriScope and other BASFs were able to get credibility in the market. And especially for a BASF like AfriScope, a woman-led BASF, we have challenges in the market as women-owned enterprises. And through the program, we were able to get visibility and credibility. We went through a vetting process, and we were one of the chosen few, right, Phoebe? So already it helped us reach more SMEs. And through the program again, we were able to continue building our capacity so that we can continuously serve the SMEs better. We're not even going to talk about the numerous networking opportunities that we were provided. Information sharing between the financial institutions and the BASPs. Those are some of the things that contributed to the closing of deals. So we did face a few challenges when you go to an enterprise and you have the name of the program behind you, because they think, oh, here is the USAID. They've come to give us free money. So those are some of the challenges that we faced at first, and that is why it probably took a while for the program to gain traction and for us to start closing deals towards year 3, year 4. Because at first we had to demystify the program to ourselves and to the SMEs as well. So that was one of the major highlights. Another thing was the pay for performance. Speaking from a BASP experience, we are grateful because sometimes it takes a very long time to close a deal. and to get a fee at the end of it, because to prove our value, we first have to close the deal, and then the SMEs can pay us. That's how it works. It has been working in the system. But there was an incentive scheme that was provided by the program, and we were able to keep our lights on as we went through the process. And for that is actually crucial, because even as BAS, we are in business. And it's important for everybody in the financial ecosystem, at least, to be for a sustainable ecosystem. We're just not talking about the SMEs at the end of the day. We're also talking about the BASPs and the financial institutions, because they're accountable to their shareholders as well. Lastly, the interlinkages. The program really brought out the interlinkages between the various capital providers, because we have providers of patient capital, we have providers of commercial capital, and we have the SMEs at different levels. So there are linkages between the SME, the business advisory service provider, the providers of patient capital, and the providers of commercial funding. It's like we were joining the dots. And right in the middle of it all was the advisor. Because an SME would come to us and they would tell us they need funds for a certain project, but they have not even been able to prove their concept. They do not have the proper market linkages. If I take such a business to Simon, I don't think they would be able to get the funding. So the program opened up all the various funders that we could approach. We successfully raised funding for one business in the aquaculture sector by an aspect of blended financing, where they first got the financing from an impact funder to be able to prove their concept and develop the markets, and eventually they got financing from a local bank. So those are some of, it is very crucial to understand the financial ecosystem at large and all the interlinkages within the system. That was one of the major highlights of the program. And anyone who would like to do something like that should, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. We have something already working. We just need to improve it more. Thank you.
Thank you, Edna. You've made my work very easy. I'll touch on 3 key highlights as a result of the KIM project. Highlight 1, for George and Simon, the BASPs came together, formed an association. It has been registered. It is ready to go. We are all yours. Highlight number 2, the time of implementation was good. But the moment when we started actually engaging the real gears, it was ending. I don't need to say the other part. Highlight number 3, as I had mentioned earlier, it is important for us to work together with the banks, particularly with our association, to find a way of commercializing the service provision by BASPs through creation of linkages between the SMEs and the banks. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thank you. Sitting next to Phoebe, I am only feeling the energy that is coming through. Exactly. And I want to believe that this is not gone ahead here with the project. I think as far as highlights are concerned, one of the things that I would speak to is that when you successfully work with the BASP, and that's what we have seen, when you cross a transaction or a deal or a lead with them, then as a bank, we are also assured of having some ambassadors out there. It is how we serve the leads that they have sent to us or referred to us that determines, how we'll be able to even move further. So that aspect of having an ambassador out there, very, very important. But I also pick, of course, that bit of ensuring, and I say this very cautiously, Phoebe, that the success of a deal in credit, and Simon will concur with me and the other bankers in the room, is the end-to-end, that I have done the deal and the terms of engagement with the SME have actually been well met, all the way up to the 0-cent payment of the last cent payment of the loan. And what I'm trying to say is that having the BASPs walking the journey, as I mentioned earlier, after the loan with the SME is a big highlight, because most of the times you find that when SMEs do not have somebody supporting them after they have gotten the loan, then they are not able to succeed. So for me, the BASPs working in a very professional way, and I'm happy because of the mention that you have given about the association, which of course brings even the BASPs even closer to ensuring that it is possible to even align the approaches for the long haul, how they will be operating. Because if this is properly structured in terms of BASPs operating professionally the way the ones that we have worked with in this project have, I think there can only be success into the future. And I believe that with that professionalism, banks will be able to embrace the services of business service providers, advisory services providers. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. And just to pick it up from where George has left, I concur with what my panelists have said. I want to bring in the other aspect of technical assistance, which is a critical component, I think, when you look at these programs. And just mentioning that I like the approach of making it sustainable by training the trainer in the organizations, so that we can be able to continually upskill some of the new colleagues. One of the aspects I think we need to build in is that there's a lot of change that happens. So it will be important then to keep refreshing some of this information and see how that can become sustainable. I commend Lattice for really delivering very quality trainings. And especially in addition to financing agricultural value chains, which opened up the eyes of many of our colleagues, but also on the field of environment and social governance, which is a key risk and a critical issue that we must all address. I think agribusinesses and agri is one of the biggest contributor to climate issues. And I think we are all responsible to ensure that we do responsible lending by making sure that at least we're looking at all aspects that touch on environment and addressing those. So some of the, conversations that are coming about is, for example, we have high energy costs across various markets, and is to see how do we look at the solar or renewable energy component, and as banks, and I know George is also looking at that, looking at solutions that can enable clients access the technology to do that. And for us, it's really a replacement cost in the P&L, so it's quite an easy access solution for that. But it's through such interactions and through such trainings we're able to, have conversations around what opportunities are there. I attended one of the trainings where we discussed, and this was delivered by a subject matter expert on sustainability. And it's just the small things that you look at. For example, we talk about water and water usage, especially when you deal with primary agriculture. How do we ensure, as we evaluate those enterprises, we look at those components and try and ensure that there's a deliberate action towards solving or providing a solution, and banks can provide the financing that is required to do that. An example was given, if you look at buildings and they've got the wash basins and the taps, just having flow, reduced flow from that is a significant change that can reduce the consumption of water. So for me, I think it's through these conversations that are forward-looking that will enable us collectively be able to address emerging issues, concerns for the environment, and making sure that we're providing solutions that are geared towards making financing sustainable, the enterprise sustainable, and at the same time transforming agricultural growth in the countries we operate in. One last comment is emerging opportunities like Africa Continental Free Trade Area is one that I think as programs, we need to see how do we ensure our agripreneurs in the country are producing to that standard that we're able to tap into those opportunities coming about. One example I got through various engagements is, for example, we do have mango growing in some areas in Eastern Province in a certain season. Now, in other parts of Africa, they grow mangoes in a different season. But if we can link the two markets together, we're able to have mango from Africa being exported to destination markets all year round, because then through that linkage, you're able to really access those markets more efficiently. So those are some of the challenges I would like to say going forward. We try and see how do we bring about programs that look into providing those kind of linkages that then banks can tap into. George and I can come in and then provide the trade financing solutions that will help us drive those businesses forward. I think those are the comments I would make.
Okay. Thank you very much. And in 1 minute each, I would like you just to say your final words or your parting shots. Thank you. We'll start with Phoebe.
Oh, you've brought in the tradition. Okay. 3 major issues. One is sustainability. How are we going to sustain this relationship and continue working together and supporting our SMEs? Number 2 is supporting the women to be able to access resources. And the third one, Kim has given birth to a small baby called Embrace Credit, deliberately for women, by the women. Thank you.
Thank you, Edna.
Thank you very much. Yes, sustainability. This, our networking events give us opportunities to interact and to close deals. I was having a conversation earlier with George, and I just, last year after we were Phoebe and I were in the panel talking about the fish dish and investing in aquaculture. Right after the panel discussion, we had a conversation with a banker from Equity, and from that meeting, that conversation, we were able to close a deal. We successfully financed a woman-owned enterprise in the chicken subsector. So these networking opportunities are very important. The learning events are also very important because we get to understand what we're doing right, where we need to improve. And I believe, Simon and George, you have the budget to keep hosting to keep hosting these networking events. So that's a challenge for you because there's a lot of information sharing. And as well as in this digital era, we can surely have a resource center where we can get information on what is working, what sectors are being supported by, say, development partners, because there's so many economically disadvantaged counties, for example, like the SL counties, and there are programs that support them. And probably the packages that the banks have been de-risked, say through credit guarantee schemes or something like that. So this information is crucial to have, as well as financing the financially excluded persons, like women, youth, persons with disability. I know this information is out there and it needs to get to the right people, like the BASFs and the SMEs. So our resource center is crucial. And finally, I would like to thank the Kenya Investment Mechanism team, the genius minds behind the Kenya Investment Mechanism program. This program has been a success. I would like to thank the USAID for providing the funds to enable this program to be such a success. You surpassed the targets, and we are happy to have contributed to the success of the program. Our heartfelt gratitude for supporting all the BASFs, all the enterprises, and especially the women-owned enterprises. It is a challenge running a business as a woman, but we have received immense support, and for that, we're extremely grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Then Simon.
Thank you very much, and I agree with you, Edna. So we take that challenge and we'll definitely follow through on that. Allow me, Anne, to just say that at Equity Bank, we have recently launched what we are calling the Africa Marshall Plan. And within the Africa Marshall Plan, 30% of what we want to do with SMEs and businesses across the region is actually supposed to go towards investments in agribusiness. And we believe that the only way we shall be able to succeed in that is having an all-inclusive business model that doesn't discriminate against anyone, who be they women, be they youth, men, and all that. And what I'm trying to say is that the much as the project is coming to a close, I want to believe that it is possible for private sector institutions like ourselves and others to be able to carry this cadre ahead and to continue to apply the lessons that we have achieved or attained through this partnership in the going forward. Importantly, trying to see how we can be able to scale up what we have picked. But remember what I said when I was opening, and I'm looking at Roger. I said the word incentive really worked. So what am I trying to say? You close the project, but you can reopen. And particularly I'm saying this because of the youth, because we've been talking about women. We've talked about businesses. The connotation when you talk about businesses, it's men. When women are separated, you talk about women, but we don't talk about the youth. We have a bulging population in our demography for the youth. The mean age is between 18, 19 years of age. And employment can be direct or indirect, but the most preferred is the direct because it is able to bear more. So if there is a way Kim and the USAID can be able to push this forward, we are happy to partner within the continent, within the region, and we try to see how we can be able to rescue our young population to be able to continue to sustain their life, because that's the only way we shall sustain security, not only for food, but even physical security. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, George. I think for me, really, it's looking forward, and I see a lot of opportunity for us to co-create and partner in other, upcoming ideas. Maybe they could be concepts now, but do let us know and do include us into those conversations, because I think there's a lot of value we can learn from each other and also from previous programs like this one to be able to forge ahead forward. Number two, there's a lot of information that we have accrued over the last so many years we've been together. And I think the challenge we face, and I raised this, I think, with you on some time, is I know George here is investing resources to get value chain information, the same resources I'll be investing to get the same value chain information. But I believe that through Kenya Investment Mechanism programs and other USAID programs, there is information that is held somewhere. And maybe for partner institutions, including business advisory service providers, is to provide a repository of information a repository place where we can tap into as institutions, because that will make us more agile, operate faster, and including letting us know what is happening in terms of trends and emerging issues in various value chains. So some of those are things I think which are low-hanging fruits that we can build into. I think as we go forward, I see us looking at other ways to partner. For example, I mentioned the access to information, markets, mentorship, and coaching. Those are areas we can try and collaborate with partners like yourselves to see how do we work together. What we did as APSA recently through a partnership with an association in horticultural sector and also a learning institution, we trained over 380 agripreneurs in horticulture on post-harvest loss management. That is a hot issue in value chains these days, and the challenge is 30% of what is produced by farmers goes to waste. And the reality is that that's where we are having the challenge with the margins, because then if we can solve that collectively, it can help us get more sustainable businesses making it through these challenges. And it's about information, it's about mentorship and coaching, it's about investments in cold storage and cold chain. And as I think as financiers, we're able to collaborate and work together, because there's a technical assistance component which addresses the market side, and then there's a supply side for capital which we're able to provide. And together we can solve that challenge and reduce post-harvest losses from, we could give ourselves within X, we can even track and see how we're performing based on the global numbers. So I think I see opportunity in terms of going forward, and really encouraged, and I'm happy to have been part of this conversation, to really have, to share the podium with a lot of experience on this podium, and really learn from my partners here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. As we come to the end, we've had a lot of the panelists here mention on the trainings. I'd like to acknowledge Lattice and thank you for having trained our financial institutions and our BASPs. Thank you for that. I'd also want to, when you go to church, there's always an altar call. So I'll have just 2 altar calls. If you've sat here and you want to start a business, just don't think about it. Look for the BASPs. They will walk with you the entire journey. And if you're a bank here and you want the ambassadors, you've heard George say that he has a lot of ambassadors. We have 40 of them. And they have even a network, an association. Just look for Phoebe and Edna. They will be able to introduce you to the other 40 or 41. And you'll definitely have a lot of ambassadors. From us, we are very grateful. Thank you. Thank you to our panelists. And please give them a round of applause as they go back to their seats. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne, and your panelists, Simon, George, Phoebe, and Edna. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I just attended a masterclass on how to build collaborations between financial institutions and business advisories. Do you agree with me? All right. Thank you so much for the candid conversations, the feedback, and of course, challenges to both sides, the financial institutions and the business advisories as well. And as all the panelists have said, there is a lot of areas for improvement. But as George said, the biggest room is the room for improvement. But this incredible panel actually ate 15 minutes of your tea break. So we'll cut the tea break a little short. We'll go out now for about 20 minutes. I'd like to urge you, grab your tea, It is also a networking tea. So please speak to somebody you haven't spoken to before. I'd like to ask you to ask them one question. What is their key takeout from the morning event? And when we come back, I will randomly pick someone or two people to share. The rule is that it is not somebody that you have spoken to before. Enjoy your tea and see you back here in 20 minutes.